All right, welcome. Today, we're going to go on our pretty wild ride. We're starting with the teeniest, tiniest particles in the universe and zooming all the way out to the massive cities we live in. The goal? To figure out how our reality is shaped, how it's filtered, and maybe how it's actually built by us. So let's kick things off with a question that honestly sounds like it's pulled straight from a sci-fi movie. Here it is. Does reality actually change just because we look at it? I mean, think about that for a second. This very idea has sparked decades of debate and wild speculation. But you know what? The real answer is way more surprising and, believe it or not, a lot more practical than you might think. Okay, so the official term for this whole thing is the observer effect. And in a nutshell, it's pretty simple. Down at the quantum level, the tiny, tiny world of particles, you literally can't measure something without messing with it. It's kind of like trying to check the temperature of a tiny cup of hot tea with a big cold thermometer. The second you stick it in, the thermometer itself cools the tea down. Your very act of measuring changed the thing you are trying to measure. Right. But here's where things get really muddy, because this is where a huge, huge misconception comes into play. You've probably seen it in pop culture or maybe some pseudoscience stuff online. They've grabbed onto this idea and run with it, suggesting that our consciousness, our thoughts alone, can somehow magically bend spoons or change the physical world. Yeah, that's not what's happening. Not at all. So it's really, really important to get this straight. The observer effect has nothing to do with a conscious mind like you or me staring at something. It's all about physical interaction. Think about it. To see a particle, like an electron, you have to do something to it. Maybe you bounce a little particle of light, a photon, off of it. Well, that collision, that's a physical event. It transfers energy, it changes things, and it forces that particle's wave of possibilities to just collapse into one single definite state. And you know, this confusion really nails why the whole thing is so misunderstood. I saw a great comment on Reddit from a user named 7Grims that just puts it perfectly. They said, the word observer is basically cursed because it tricks people into thinking consciousness has something to do with it, which is just plain wrong. Honestly, scientists probably should have called it the measurement effect or the interaction effect from day one. That's all it is. And that's really the bottom line for this part. It doesn't matter if the observer is a person, a cat, or a supercomputer that instantly deletes the data. Any physical tool that interacts with that quantum system is enough to snap it out of that fuzzy state of uncertainty. That's it. Interaction, not consciousness. Okay, so that's the quantum world. But what's really fascinating is that this whole process of filtering reality, it's not just for tiny particles. Your own brain is doing it constantly, every single second of every day. It basically has its own built-in mute button for the world around you. There's a name for this, of course. It's called acoustic habituation. And it's just a fancy way of saying it's a type of learning where our brain figures out which sounds are important and which ones are just background noise that it can safely ignore. It's the reason you can completely tune out the constant hum of your refrigerator or the traffic buzzing outside your window. Just think about it like this. Imagine you're sitting quietly, and suddenly there's a loud, unexpected bang. The first time, you jump out of your skin, right? Your brain goes on high alert. Then it happens again. This time, you startle, but a little less. By the third or fourth time you hear that same bang, you barely even react. What happened? Your brain has measured the sound, decided it's not a threat, and started to filter it out for you. So you see the parallel here? Just like a scientific tool measures a particle and changes its state, our brains are constantly measuring everything we see, hear, and feel. They're making nonstop judgment calls about what's important, what's signal, and what's just noise. They're basically collapsing this infinite world of sensory information into a reality that we can actually manage. Okay, so we've gone from quantum particles to our own brains. Now let's zoom out one more time. What happens when we take this principle of filtering and apply it to the very places we build? Well, we get what the French anthropologist Marc Augé famously called non-places, entire environments that are basically designed to be passed through and, in a way, designed to be ignored. So what did Augé mean by a non-place? He was talking about these spaces of transit, of pure function. They're not places for living or for creating deep memories. They're for moving through. And in these spaces, we're not really ourselves, are we? We're not individuals with complex histories. We're just anonymous users, a customer, a passenger, a driver. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. We spend so much time in these places. Think about an airport terminal, a giant shopping mall, the subway system, even a gas station. They're all spaces of pure utility. Our entire experience is guided by signs and instructions, not by real human social connection. And this all leads to this really strange, very modern paradox. In these non-places, we can be literally shoulder to shoulder with thousands of other people and yet feel completely and utterly alone. We're all just playing these assigned roles, following the script, contributing to this big, collective experience of anonymity. Okay, so we've seen how from quantum particles to our cities, our reality is being constantly filtered. And a lot of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. So that leads to the big question. Can we take back the controls? Can we switch from being on autopilot, from having our reality filtered for us, to consciously choosing what we focus on? Well, the answer is a definite yes. One really powerful way to do this is something called urban mindfulness. Seriously, the next time you find yourself on a crowded train or a crazy busy street, just try this. It's 4 simple steps. 1, just gaze. Let your eyes rest on a single point without staring. 2, sense. Actively notice what you hear, what you smell, what you feel on your skin right now. 3, breathe. Just focus on your belly rising and falling. And 4, the most important one, accept. Let your thoughts just come and go without judging them. Just like that, you can turn a non-place into a place where you are truly present and aware. But there's another way to tackle this too, and it's a bit more philosophical. It's about making a conscious choice to push back against all the noise that's screaming for our attention, for our consumption. It's really a choice between 2 paths. On one hand, materialistic consumerism, and on the other, a philosophy you often see in Zen Buddhism, minimalism. This whole less is more idea is really a direct rebellion against a system that thrives on us wanting more. It's about intentionally cutting out the unnecessary stuff in our lives. And the benefits are huge, right? It doesn't just declutter our homes and our minds. It also means less waste, less exploitation of the planet. It's all rooted in this powerful principle of non-attachment to material things. It's an active choice to decide for yourself what truly matters. So we've taken this huge journey from the quantum world to our own minds to the society we've built. And there's one golden thread connecting all of it. We have the power to be the architects of our own experience. When you boil it all down, it's the same principle playing out at every scale. From a tiny particle whose reality is determined by being measured, to a city dweller navigating the urban jungle, our reality is fundamentally shaped by what gets our attention and by what gets ignored. Marc Ager put it so beautifully. He wrote that our cities are built not just from concrete and steel, but from the imaginary. From our collective memories, our stories, our shared perceptions. What that means is we are both the readers and the writers of the world we live in. So we have a choice. It's a real choice we can make every day. We can just let our reality be passively built for us by automatic brain processes and by the forces of the modern world, or we can take an active role. We can become the architects. We can choose what we measure, what we pay attention to, and ultimately what we decide to value. So, I'll leave you with this one thought. In a world that is just overflowing with noise, both literal and metaphorical, what will you choose to measure? Because in the end, what you measure, that's what becomes your reality.